Whoa, whoa, working for a living. Whoa, whoa, taking what they're giving. Whoa, whoa, whoa there. If you're taking whatever they're giving, you probably need to raise your rate. Hello, I'm Lisa Robbin Young, and this is Creative Freedom, your dose of empowerment for creative entrepreneurs, where can-do inspiration and how-to education collide to help you own your dreams without selling your soul. Now, the past few episodes, I've been dropping not so subtle hints that one of the ways to combat under-earning is to raise your rates, charge more for your offerings. I truly believe that when you charge more, you can afford to be more generous without giving for validation, one of the 5 core symptoms of under-earning. Raising your rates alone won't solve the problem, though. You have to do some inner work to right-size your generosity, too. Otherwise, you just end up giving more to match the more that you're earning, and you're right back where you started, only with more zeros on the end of it. We'll look at that in a future episode. But today, I want to look more closely at when you should raise your rates, because sometimes it makes sense and other times maybe not. Creatives in general tend to undercharge, but not everyone does. And even if you just raised your rates, it might be time to do it again, which could feel very uncomfortable. So how do you know when it's time? Here are 11 signs that might give you some confirmation that you need to raise your rates, or at the very least, redesign your offers so that you're making more money. Number 1, you're working for free. My first paying gig as a creative entrepreneur was when I was 3 or 4. I charged the neighbor kids $0.25 to watch me sing and dance. Sadly, I know grown adults who still charge about the same for their services. I've said before that there's a time and a place for free. If you're in an apprenticeship or internship, there may be things that you're not getting paid for, but you're getting valuable knowledge, skill development, and other support to hone your great work so that you can eventually charge for it. If you've got a charity or a special cause that you're passionate about and you want to volunteer your services because you believe in them, not because it will be great exposure for you, then it makes sense to say yes to working for free. But even in these circumstances, there's often a way to get paid something for your time, energy, or materials. Don't just assume that you have to work for free. In fact, sometimes it's smart to just shake things up a little and refuse to work for free, even if it is a charity or an organization that you love. Remember what I always say, you train people how to treat you. So if you always work for free, they'll expect they can count on you to always work for free. Then even when they do have a budget, you won't be on it. Beyond those situations though, working for free is problematic. Even barter and trade, which we'll talk about in a bit, aren't technically free work. There's a value exchange, and that's the key. There should always be a tangible value or energetic exchange, or you're training people to expect that you'll always work for free. If you find yourself doing a lot of free work where very little value comes back to you, it's time to raise your rates. Number 2, you can't pay your bills. I've had clients come to me that were convinced they couldn't charge more for their offerings. Their local market simply wouldn't pay the prices they need to be able to pay their bills. Well, guess what? If you can't pay your bills, you don't have a business, or you won't for very long. You'll be pulling money out of your savings to prop up this thing that you're trying to do, which means it's an expensive hobby, not a real business. There will always be a lower price provider for whatever you sell. But do you want to be that guy? When you compete on price, the people who come to you will typically be the ones who always want the lowest price. That means they're loyal to the savings, not to you. In truth, raising your rates by a few dollars or a few percentage points won't deter your fans. One client I had, in an economically depressed community, mind you, offered gourmet food that he was grossly undercharging for because of the market. It took some wrangling, but he finally raised his rates on his most popular items. Nobody complained because he was the only game in town when it came to those offers, and they were yummy, so people were gladly willing to pay more for them. For the first time in a year of being in business, he didn't have to pull money out of his personal funds to prop up his business. Fancy that. Number 3, you're not paying yourself a salary. Once the business can pay for itself, it needs to be able to pay for you too. I mean, if you had to hire someone to do your job, they wouldn't work for free, so why are you doing it? You've got to pay yourself a salary for the work you do inside your company. Now, I don't care if at first your paycheck is on paper and you only pay yourself a penny and then plow it right back into the business. It's not the amount that matters at first, it's the habit. You need to create a payroll habit. Why? Because once your company grows, you're gonna hire somebody and they're gonna be like, when's payday? So start now. Create the habit that will train your brain to start seeing your worth in the business as an actual line item that needs attention and payment. Number 4, you don't have a budget for taxes, marketing, etc. Like paying yourself, you gotta pay the government, you gotta pay the business, and you've got to invest in letting the world know you exist. Beyond your salary, it might also be nice to think about setting aside money for your future so that you can provide for yourself long after you're not working anymore. As your income grows, these line items become imperatives for the well-being of you and your company. Mike McAllowitz says profit is the lifeblood of your company. So if you're spending every penny and not setting aside anything, then you probably need to raise your rates. I use Mike's Profit First method to make sure all my accounts are fully funded and that the future of my business and my life are covered. Just like payroll, you need to practice paying this into your financial situation. Payday's a good day to look at those numbers. Number 5, A-listers are playing Moneyball with ya. Now this one hit really close to home for me. And if you're not familiar with the term, it comes from the title of a book by Michael Lewis where he examined the system baseball teams were using to find high-performing players undervalued by the market. In short, they were paying way less than market rates for players that made big gains for the team. Now, I realized this was happening to me when I was being asked to help multi-million-dollar entrepreneurs add million-dollar revenue streams to their business for a pittance compared to the value that I was bringing to the company's bottom line. And I was happy about it. The first guy approached me and I was thrilled to be part of his team, and I was happily working hard for the prestige of being part of his organization. But my joy quickly turned to pain when I started feeling like I was living out a Huey Lewis in the News song.
Someday won't it ever, and someday pass on by. I'll be working here forever, at least until I die.
Yeah, I'm not the fastest race car in the garage sometimes. By the time the third multimillionaire approached me, I knew I was grossly undercharging. Time to raise the rates. And he didn't even flinch, which told me I probably could have raised them higher, but I didn't think I was worthy of charging more, which we'll talk about in a minute. Number 6, you don't want to be the low price provider. I was telling a client the other day that even a Tiffany diamond inside Walmart would be considered overpriced. Regardless of the real value of that diamond, the fact that it's in a discount retail store sets an expectation in the mind of the buyer. Do you want to be the low price provider with skinny margins, always being talked down because someone else in the market offers the same thing you do for less? That's a stressful place to be, but if you want it, have at it. Otherwise, if you don't want to be the low price provider, raise your rates. Number 7, everyone in your area is charging what you charge. This is the corollary to number 6. If you don't want to be the low price provider, you also don't want to be doing what everyone else is doing. In that case, you need to raise your rates. Sometimes just the act of raising your rates a little higher than the local competition sets you apart in the minds of buyers. Number 8, everyone in your area is charging more than you. Generally, that's a sign you're just not charging enough. The exception to this might be if you're offering support to a nonprofit or charity for purpose assistance. But even then, I'd still recommend raising your rates for regular paying clients to help subsidize the cost of doing your for-purpose work. Number 9, you do a lot of barter or trade that feels one-sided. If more than 50% of your work is barter or trade, and you're not able to pay your bills, you're doing too much for too little, and it's time to raise your rates. Believe it or not, in the US, barter or trade work is taxable as a form of income. So you need to offset it properly on the books. It's not just a feel-good, you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours kind of a deal. You need to treat it like money in and out of your business. If you can't afford to hire someone with cash and they want to trade with you, it might be time to raise your rates. Number 10, you still don't have an income that supports the lifestyle you desire. Even after you've covered all the bases I've already mentioned, if you're still not able to support the lifestyle you want, you may need to raise your rates. Hey, I don't judge. Some people are content to live in a tiny house with a well and a composting toilet. Some people want a big house on a hill with a pool and house staff in a high rent zip code. It is not for me to say what's right for you. That is your decision. But if you've got a vision for your life and you're not getting there with the money you're making now, you just might need to raise your rates. Number 11, you don't think you're worthy of a certain rate. I get this one. I really do. It's common for under-earners. One of the exercises I do with my clients is to ask them to develop a $25,000 offer. Not because anyone will ever buy it, although it's possible someone could. It's about the kind of thinking that has to happen in order to develop that offer in the first place. You have to think about who you are, what kind of person you'd have to be to charge $25,000 for any kind of offer. Many times that first draft comes back with so many bells and whistles, so much in the offer that it would overwhelm a buyer even if they did invest in it. But that compulsion to put so much in the offer stems from a fear that you've got to earn the money, that somehow you're not worthy of that kind of income unless you pack a whole bunch of stuff into your offer. When a client says, well, I don't know if I could charge that kind of money, I understand. Believe me, I do. And I lovingly encourage them to begin to stretch toward that rate anyway. When I worked with direct sellers, I used to tell them all the time that they needed to see their time as worth $500 an hour. Not that they'd actually get paid $500 an hour, but that between all the things they needed to manage as business owners and team trainers, not to mention product sellers, they needed to put a higher value on their time since they couldn't clock 40 hours a week just selling product. If you don't see yourself as worth $500 an hour, you'll be hard pressed to ever make that kind of money in the first place. Maybe you don't need $500 an hour if you're working 40 hours a week, but if you've got a chronic illness and can only invest 5 to 8 hours a week or less, that $500 an hour number starts to feel more meaningful to you. So there you have it. 11 signs that you probably need to be charging more. And I'm sure there are others, but these are some pretty big ones that I see fairly regularly. Now, if you need help mustering the courage to raise your rates, the Creative Freedom Guide to Overcoming Under-Earning could help. It's a 5-week hands-on program that helps you retrain your brain and create the foundations for financial stability to end your cycle of under-earning. You can learn more about it at lisarobinyoung.com/under-earning, and I will put a link in the description so that you can just click and go. So now it's to you. What's stopping you from raising your rates? Or if it's easy for you to raise your rates, what advice can you share with our rising tide to help them have the confidence and courage to follow your lead? Share your thoughts and ideas in the comments and be part of our rising tide. If you're only watching my videos, you're only getting about a third of the deal. Each week this season, we've got a podcast episode that dives even deeper on the week's topic and a Q&A on my Facebook page to answer your questions live. Plus, you get access to a bunch of extra goodies like transcripts and worksheets and more when you join our Rising Tide community on the website. If you liked this episode, subscribe, leave a review, share us around with your friends. Sharing is caring after all. And now that we've talked about the signs that you need to raise your rates, next week we'll talk about how to do it. Funny how that works. I hope you'll join us for that next time. And until then, for more inspiration and education to help you own your dreams without selling your soul, come see what's shaking over at lisarobinyoung.com. You know you want to.